You want receipts? Shedeur Sanders just handed the Browns and his critics an entire file cabinet. In a practice that was supposed to be just another tune-up, Shedeur came out looking like it was Super Bowl Sunday. Precision passes, deep bombs, pocket movement that made defenders look like they were stuck in slow motion. We're talking electric. And the whole thing? Caught on camera, shared, reposted, memed, and now he's going viral. Again, if you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Because this isn't a one-time fluke. This is a pattern of performance that the Browns organization, for whatever reason, keeps trying to minimize. And now that Shedeur's highlights are flooding timelines across the league, people are finally saying what should have been obvious weeks ago. This man is him. But of course, with great power comes petty resistance. And this week, that resistance came in the form of local media beef, so spicy it might need its own segment on First Take. We're talking Tony Rizzo versus Tony G.I., two longtime Cleveland analysts, two very different reads on Shedeur Sanders, and one very loud debate that's now turned into a full-blown media tug-of-war over who's right, who's wrong, and who's just salty that a 22-year-old is outshining half the Browns' depth chart. Let's break it down. Tony Rizzo? He's all in. From day one. He's been calling it like he sees it. Shedeur is the most naturally talented quarterback the Browns have had in the room in years. He's not about babying him or hiding behind development timelines. Rizzo's message is loud and clear. Let the kid play. And after watching this most recent practice, Rizzo might as well have dropped the mic on live radio. He went in hard, pointed out how Shedeur is making throws the other QBs on the roster aren't even attempting, how his footwork has evolved since camp started, how he's shown poise, control, and a clear understanding of the offense, despite being shoved into a backseat since day one. And he didn't stop there. Rizzo straight up called out the coaching staff for mishandling the quarterback situation, saying what fans have been screaming on message board for weeks. This isn't about ability. It's about ego. Because when you've got a quarterback consistently outperforming his peers in practice, day in and day out, you don't bury him behind washed-up veterans unless you've got something to prove or something to hide. And then enter Tony G.I. If you don't know Tony G.I., let's just say he's taken the role of Shedeur skeptic and run with it like it's a full-time job. Every time Sanders shines, G.I.'s got a new reason to doubt it. The throws aren't NFL speed. The defense wasn't trying. It's just practice. Buddy, you can't call it just practice when the guy is making the other quarterbacks look like camp counselors. G.I.'s criticism doesn't sound like constructive analysis. It sounds like someone clinging to an old narrative that's been torched by a viral highlight reel. Every time Sanders levels up, G.I. moves the goalpost. Now he's comparing him unfavorably to Dillon Gabriel. With respect, what are we doing here? Shedeur has already shown more arm talent and composure in his limited reps than Gabriel has shown since arriving in Cleveland. And yes, Gabriel has potential. But this isn't about choosing one prospect over another. This is about recognizing who's performing right now. And right now, it's Shedeur. But G.I. won't let go. He insists Shedeur's performances are overhyped and that the local media's obsession with him is narrative-driven. You know what that sounds like? Fear. Because once a player like Shedeur gets momentum, once the fan base starts rallying behind him, once the rest of the league starts watching, you can't spin that back into silence. You can't throw cold water on a wildfire with a lukewarm take. And now, the fans are choosing sides. Twitter is flooded with clips from practice. Shedeur dropping dimes across the field, slinging 40-yard passes on a rope, scrambling like a vet, and looking off safeties like he's in year 8, not month 5. And underneath every clip, let him cook. This is our QB1. Rizzo was right. Tony G.I. owes this man an apology. It's not just hype anymore, it's a movement. And MD Dog TV, the YouTube channel breaking it all down, captured the energy perfectly. No fluff, no spin, just raw footage and honest analysis. You watch the tape, you listen to commentary, and you feel it. Shedeur is putting on a clinic, and the only people not admitting it are the ones who've been dead wrong since day one. The channel made one thing crystal clear. Shedeur isn't being handed anything. He's taking it. Every rep, every drill, every read. He's grinding. He's earning. He's showing up and making it impossible to ignore him. And yet, he's still being ignored. That's the part that stings. Not just for fans, but for anyone who's ever seen a system deliberately slow-roll a rising star because he doesn't fit the mold. Whether it's Stefanski's comfort zone or the front office's obsession with hierarchy, the fact remains, Shedeur is being held back by forces that have nothing to do with performance. And that's what Rizzo is fighting against. That's what MD Dog TV is calling out. That's what fans are finally starting to recognize. This is bigger than football. This is about a young player refusing to stay in the box they built for him, about someone showing up every single day and proving people wrong in real time, and still getting doubted. You want to talk about adversity? Forget a bad snap or a tough loss. Real adversity is putting together a highlight tape during a practice designed to keep you out of the spotlight and still stealing the show. So what happens next? We've got a game against Cincinnati coming up. If Shedeur gets real snaps, real opportunities, and continues to light it up, there's no turning back. The calls for him to start will be deafening. Stefanski won't be able to hide behind development or evaluation anymore. The fans won't let him. The players won't either. But if they pull the same move, give him garbage time, bury him behind the third-string line, pretend the results don't matter, it's going to explode. Loudly. Because the truth is out. The tape is out. And the debate? It's over. Shedeur Sanders has earned his shot. The only question now is whether the Browns are smart enough or brave enough to give it to him. So what do you think? Is Shedeur being unfairly kept down? Are analysts like Tony G.I. stuck in an old-school mindset that refuses to acknowledge when a rookie has it? Or is there still time for Stefanski to right the ship before the locker room and the city turns on him? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that subscribe if you're ready to ride this all the way to week 1. Because if Shedeur hits the field against the Bengals, you're going to want front row seats. And as for the Browns, if they blow this, they'll be watching another young QB torch them from a different team's sideline. Because what started as a viral highlight reel from a meaningless Browns practice has now detonated into a full-on movement. Shedeur Sanders didn't just show out, he shook the foundation. And everyone from fans to analysts to bitter local media dinosaurs are now scrambling to figure out which side of history they want to be on. This isn't about hype anymore. This is about truth. The truth is, Shedeur didn't ask for this storm. He just picked up a football and threw it with surgical precision, while the Browns' coaching staff tried their best to make him invisible. They built a wall. He broke through it. They tried to keep the spotlight off him, and now he's standing in it with the world watching. And what's Cleveland doing? Pretending it's cloudy. But everyone saw what happened at practice. The zip on his throws, the timing, the reads, the way he ran that offense like he'd been doing it for years. Defensive backs couldn't keep up. Receivers looked rejuvenated. Even the practice squad guys were celebrating like it was Week 18, and the playoffs were on the line. And through it all, Shedeur kept his head down. No flexing. No taunting. No told-you-so energy. Just another day at work for a quarterback who knows he's playing chess while the rest of the room is stuck on checkers. Let's talk about that, actually, because that's the part people are starting to really notice. His maturity. It's not just the throws. It's the demeanor, the leadership, the calm. You don't often see that in a rookie, especially not one with this much noise swirling around his name. You'd think he'd be flustered. You'd think he'd snap back at the Tony G-type critics or post some cryptic social media quote, like every other Gen Z athlete when the hate rolls in. But Shedeur, he just keeps balling. And that right there, that's dangerous for anyone trying to keep him on the bench. Because now, even the players know, the guys catching those passes, the offensive line finally waking up when he's under center, the defensive backs getting roasted and respecting it. That kind of shift doesn't come from coaching. It comes from a leader, from a quarterback. And yet, despite all this momentum, all this energy, the coaching staff is still acting like it's business as usual, still talking about installing the system, still pretending like Shedeur hasn't completely taken over the room, without even being handed the keys. And you can feel it, this growing tension. It's in the locker room, in the press conferences, in the local sports talk segments that keep trying to downplay him while tiptoeing around the truth. Even the beat reporters, who've been cautious not to stir the pot, are starting to crack. There was a moment, quiet but telling, where one Browns insider said, "Look, I can't explain why he's not getting more reps, but I'll tell you this. The guys in the building notice, and they talk. Let that sink in. They talk, which means this thing is bubbling from the inside now. Because at a certain point, when a player keeps delivering and the coach keeps pretending it doesn't matter, the locker room starts to divide. Guys start asking questions. Start wondering why the team preaches competition and earning your spot when it's clear that some decisions are made before anyone even touches the field. And let's be real. Everyone knows what this is really about. It's not about readiness. It's about control. Kevin Stefanski, for all his calm demeanor and measured answers, is holding on tight to his system, his philosophy, his comfort zone. And Shedeur, he represents change. He represents disruption, not in a reckless way, but in a this kid might actually be great and I have to write the plan way. And that scares coaches like Stefanski, because Shedeur isn't a plug-and-play game manager. He's not here to dink and dunk or grow slowly behind clipboard holders. He's a franchise quarterback in the making. And if the Browns had any guts, they'd stop pretending and start preparing for that reality. But no, Stefanski is still talking about install packages, trust, and staying the course. Meanwhile, the fans are doing anything but staying the course. Twitter is a battlefield. Rizzo and the realists are in one corner, reminding people that performance trumps politics, while the old-school crowd clings to their, but he hasn't played a regular season snap. Excuse like it's going to save them. Spoiler, it won't, because no matter how you try to spin it, the film doesn't lie. And the film from this last practice? It's the kind of footage you clip into a draft night highlight package 5 years from now with voiceover that says everyone doubted him until he forced their hand. Let's talk about the Bengals game, though, because whether they like it or not, the eyes are going to be on Shedeur. Even if he only gets a series, even if it's behind the second unit with limited play calling, people are watching. Every throw, every decision, every sideline reaction. It's not just a preseason game anymore. It's a referendum on this entire QB situation. If Stefanski plays it safe again, if Shedeur gets garbage reps, or worse, no meaningful snaps at all, that crowd is going to let him hear it. And the headlines the next day? Not pretty. Because at this point, people want to see Stefanski uncomfortable. They want to see what happens when the excuses run out and the talent is undeniable. They want to see how long a head coach can ignore the most electric quarterback in camp before the locker room, and the city stages a full-on rebellion. And let's not forget the wildest part of all this. Shedeur hasn't even played a real NFL game yet. Let that sit with you for a second, because if this is what he's doing now, flipping narratives, splitting the media, capturing national attention, dominating practice like it's Sunday Night Football, what happens when he actually gets the reins? What happens when he's not just breaking down defenses in a closed camp session, but lighting up stadiums in front of 60,000 fans? That's not hype. That's inevitability. And the only people who can't see it are the ones too stuck in their ways to admit that the future is here, and his name is Shedeur Sanders. So let's ask the real question now. What's the Browns' end game? Do they hold firm, ride this out, and risk losing the locker room, the fans, and momentum they finally built after years of quarterback purgatory? Or do they stop being scared of change, bench the politics, and hand the ball to the player who's already proven he belongs? It's not a hard choice, unless you're scared of being wrong. And right now, that fear might cost Kevin Stefanski everything. It's no longer a story. It's a reckoning. And this week's practice? The one where Shedeur dropped absolute fireballs across the field while his critics try to act like they didn't see it? That wasn't just a highlight reel. That was a warning to the coaches, to the front office, to the media that doubted him, to anyone still clutching there, but he's just a rookie pearls. Because after that practice, everything changed. There's a reason this clip, yes, that clip, of Shedeur slinging a 40-yard laser while on the run, hitting his receiver perfectly in stride, is being shared like it's gospel. And the reaction? Nothing short of a football revival. Oh, it's just practice. Some are still whining. Cool. Then explain why your practice hero looks more polished than half the starters in the league. Explain why the veterans were nodding on the sideline like, yeah, he's got it. Explain why the crowd watching from the bleachers stood up like they just saw LeBron dunk over 3 defenders. The truth? You can't explain it away anymore. You can't bury it in coach speak or scribbled depth charts. Shedeur Sanders has arrived. And now, the Browns are officially on the clock. Because when the entire football world sees the tape, feels the shift, hears the roar, and you're still trying to force a narrative that it's not his time yet, you've lost the room. Period. It's not even just the fans anymore. People in the locker room are talking. Quietly, of course. Respectfully. But there's a reason quotes are leaking. There's a reason teammates are calling him the real deal on their socials. There's a reason other quarterbacks around the league are taking note. And, let's be honest, feeling just a little nervous. Because Shedeur is not just talented. He's inevitable. And now, every delay feels less like strategy and more like sabotage. Let's not forget how we got here. He showed up to camp, did everything right, outworked everyone, outperformed expectations, played with poise, made NFL throws, took coaching, led by example, kept his mouth shut while others got chances he earned. And through all of that, he got sidelined again and again. First, it was the "we're taking it slow" excuse. Then it was rotational reps. Then it was preseason evaluation. Then it was straight-up ghosting during key drives, like the now infamous Snoop Huntley 2-minute drill debacle. They're not even hiding it anymore. And yet, Shedeur keeps showing up, keeps leveling up, keeps proving that the only people holding him back are the ones paid to notice talent and somehow still can't admit they're wrong. Meanwhile, outside the facility, Cleveland fans are absolutely losing it. In the best way. They're showing up to practice with homemade signs, wearing number 5 custom jerseys. Chants of "let him play" echo from the crowd during warm-ups. Social media, unhinged, clips of Shedeur slicing through scout team defenses are getting more engagement than the official Browns QB1 pressers. Fan pages are making film breakdowns like it's week 12. Hashtags like #StartShedeur and #QB1Energy are gaining traction. And then there's the real kicker. NFL analysts outside of Cleveland are starting to weigh in. Guys like Chris Sims, Mina Kimes, even Ryan Clark. They're seeing the tape, they're reading the room, and they're all asking the same question. Why isn't this guy getting first-team reps yet? That's not just noise. That's national pressure. And for a team already living on the edge of PR disaster, that's the last thing they needed. But back in Berea, Stefanski's still wearing that same tight-lipped smile, still talking about scheme installation, still pretending like naming a starter in August is some kind of mortal sin. But let's be real here. This isn't about scheme. It's about control. Because if Shedeur Sanders forces his way into the starting job, it won't just be a personnel move. It'll be a complete indictment of how this team evaluates, develops, and supports talent. And no one in that building wants to admit that the rookie they tried to stash on the sidelines might actually be their best shot at turning this franchise around. So now the question isn't, is Shedeur ready? It's how long can Cleveland pretend he's not? Because the Bengals game is coming. The lights are getting brighter. The fans are getting louder. The leash on every other QB in that room getting shorter. And Shedeur? He's not waiting. He's just watching, preparing, staying locked in, biding his time. Because when that opportunity comes, and it will, he's not just going to take the job. He's going to make you regret not giving it to him sooner. That's what makes this story so compelling. It's not just about football anymore. It's about resistance versus readiness, ego versus excellence, safe versus spectacular. And right now, Cleveland is choosing safe. But safe doesn't win games. Safe doesn't win hearts. Safe doesn't light up practice fields and make fans believe again. Shedeur does. So now the Browns are backed into a corner of their own making. If they give in and let Shedeur lead, they'll look like they caved. If they keep delaying, they'll lose a fan base, and possibly the locker room. Either way, the clock is ticking. And every second they spend playing coy is another second Shedeur spends getting better. So what do? They gamble, or they grow up. Because this isn't some feel-good rookie storyline. This is your future franchise quarterback telling you he's ready, without saying a word. And if you can't see that, you shouldn't be calling plays.